Okay, sounds good.
And everybody's here, so.
Papa-san, do you want to record?
So as the video walkthrough version, this is very quick, and I enjoyed playing it after watching the video. And so, reasonably, a new player spends a lot more time searching for what to do and finding a connection among things. And this is reasonably somewhat of a speed run. So it's definitely a good ending. That's never forget when the two guys show each other their colored underwear with a smiley face on it. That's always the best ending.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think I really like this. So we explore these three sceneries in Shenzhen, and we see those extremely detailed drawings of the city scenes, and can zoom in and navigate around, which is beautiful. And what I like is their like isometric perspective. So at the same time, they're very realistic renderings of the scene, but then they also have an abstract character, like a map. So we're invited to explore and navigate. And yeah, the point is about the normal life as it goes on when nothing goes on. And that's what we explore. It's immediately clear that we need a lot of attention to detail and observe carefully. So we need to spend time in those areas and say hang out with the homeless in the park, watch the busy shopkeepers here, and yeah, really pay attention to interact with the small details, observe the characters, and let our imagination play how objects and characters might relate to each other. And we get surprised by the small events and the possibilities that occur in those mundane moments. And what I really like is that the interaction is always about a two-step process. So we have to find a character and something else, an object or an animal, and think about the relationship and how they might play together. So that is something that really works beautifully as a very subtle and calm, let's say, humble way of storytelling that really brings us into the kind of the calmness of the life there, and invites us to hang out and spend time. And what this kind of storytelling does, it teaches us about the riches of small life and teaches us something about those places. So we get at the beginning of all of those places, we get a little introduction, which really makes me feel like, yeah, I'm there and I have a certain priming, how to make sense and how to read this space. And then it's about really exploring and discovering. The drawings are really beautiful. The little animations are beautiful and imaginative. The drawings remind me a little bit of those super complex, highly detailed search images like Where's Waldo or so. But here the focus is on time and the small movements and the action that occurs, as I said, when nothing happens, other than Waldo, which is the static complexity that we're exploring like a map. Here it's really about diving into the life of the place and just being there. There's no protagonist or so. It's just all normal people and normal things and little things that happen. So the design is beautiful, calm, and reduced, and the same goes for the soundscape, which is realistic. It's spatial. When I play the game, I can hear where sounds come from, and yeah, I'm really diving into those places and soak in the atmosphere. So this is very beautiful. It takes a little bit of time of clicking around and finding what is going on. I think once we found everything, then we kind of can go back. I think in terms of a second round, we're much faster and we're exploring less, which first I thought, well, yeah, so this game we play once, but then actually when I played it another time, I thought, well, this is exactly how we relate to our normal day environment. We get used to things and we pass by, and we're still part of the environment and we're still part of the fabric and the small movements that go on. So yeah, congratulations. This is really beautiful.
It
Thank
also,
you very much.
when I first I found the video and it said 5 minutes, I was like, well, I'll watch a minute or so and then I'll play the game. And when I was looking at this ahead of time, and then it was over, and I thought, oh, I misread the time. In other words, 5 minutes passed very quickly for me. And like Andreas says, it is really nice to see then to play it, and the experience is much more slowed down with lots of detail and small life. What's really good use of so this is a lot about getting our attention on what should we be paying attention to and what is not as important, and you make color and movement. You utilize that color and movement are really great ways to draw the eye and to celebrate success. So when we click on things and we get somewhere, we get some color out of it. And of course we get a little movement out, we get movement out of it as well. So it's actually really well designed for our attention. Yeah, great job. All right.
So Asako, so will you please translate it?
今回はピーターたちから質問があれば、通訳しようかっていうことに、後で細かく。
Okay. So I just think that for the Japanese audience, is it okay?
全部入れますか今。
So we told them that there is a support interpretation. So I think just a whole.
Okay. そうですね。アンドレアスはいっぱいメモ書いたんだけど、すべてのゲーム要素は2ステップ、2ステップのプロセスになってて、でそれぞれにその関係性があって、非常に興味深く作られてると思うし、一見スモールライフっていう日常性だったり普遍性みたいななんてことない日常のことを描いているだけなんだけども、それによってそれ自身の美しさだったり、またこの場所の、特性だったりみたいなものがすごく見事に描かれていると思います。ウォーリーを探せみたいな要素ももちろんあるんだけれども、それ以上にこの、非常に美しくてミニマルな絵だけれども想像力をかきたてるものがあります。でピーターは最初プレイビデオを1分ぐらい見たらやめて実際プレイしてみようと思ったんだけど、5分っていうプレイビデオの長さを感じさせないぐらいあっという間に終わってしまった。それぐらいやっぱ引き込まれるものであった。でこのゲームは色とちっちゃな動きを通してプレイヤーの、注意力を引きつけるっていう方法をとってるんだけども、それが非常に効果的になっているし、プレイヤーがうまくいった時にもそういう色とか動きで、ちゃんとうまくいったよっていうのをちゃんと知らせるっていうことも、成功していて、とてもいいと思いますということでした。
Thank you very much, Asako. I'm very sorry to interrupt you, Pete and Andreas. So please go ahead.
「体の中に何かいる」呼 吸している時も歩いている時もずっと一緒にいる。体の中に何かいる。止まっている時も落ちる時もずっと一緒にいる。体の中に何かいる。動物たちも植物たちもそれを教えてくれる。声も聞こえず、姿も見えず、ずっと一緒にいる。
Yeah. Beautiful work. It's like the other VR pieces, I felt it really makes all the difference to play them at least in the 360 video, which unfortunately I couldn't play that in VR, but the 360 video really gives a very different sense of space and being in space. And I found this really shows that the medium is used well, because it just doesn't work by far as well in the frame 2D version. So being in this ambiguous white space that we see here is very compelling. It evokes associations of some like untouched innocence in some sense, like a white canvas or the surface of fresh snow that nobody has walked on yet. At the same time, we hear those very crystalline sounds of water dropping. It feels somewhat interior, like in a cavernous space. There's a little bit of an echo. And the water drops ripple in this white nothingness, and plants are growing in those places, and speed actually through the development process. So from budding to blooming to disappearance, it's extremely quick. So very fast growth and life cycles here. Which, I mean, with the name of virus, I'm somehow inclined to relate these together. There's this blue deer who's inhabiting the scene, grazing in this white water landscape, and also transforms into cell-like blobs. So in the very beginning, it seems in the VR opening, I'm holding something like a cell in my hands, which starts the experience, which is a beautiful metaphor for birth or for growth and life. then, so after going around in this white space, we enter, there's a fade into the black space, which all of a sudden closes in and is much smaller from the soundscape. It also has, in contrast to the previous white space, the suggestion of darkness, of kind of a certain sense of nociveness, of threat. Feels a little bit like underwater, I find. And we have this weird strand of colorful creature that spirals and wraps around the space. And it's this, there's this pulsating green-brown pattern in it that gives it really some, life quality. It may remind us of microbes or like kind of an imagination of virus. And the two spaces just fade into each other. So after having looked around in that in the dark microbe space, we fade back into the white space, are with the deer again. And I cannot help but being reminded of something like Franz Marc's the Blue Horse, like expressionist artist, and the music from a similar period totally reminds me of the French impressionist composer and phonometrist, actually, as he preferred, Satie. So it's a very atmospheric, beautiful tale of which we may not fully understand everything what is meant by the different things, but it's a very calming and unsettling experience at the same time. So both we feel life and beauty, and we feel threat, which also has its own beauty. So reading the statement about the game, I understand it's the pledge to live together peacefully, and I can really get this atmosphere from the work. So it's very beautiful. I'm curious, my question would be, am I really doing something with my hands in this as a player? Which is hard to determine from just watching the video. But watching the video is a very beautiful experience. Thank you. Good work, Junji.
I'm gonna try to sum that up first and ask your question. 非常に美しいです。で、他の VR 作品もそうなんですけど、やっぱり360度で見ると全然違う、体験ができると、その空間の、捉え方も違うし、変わってくるし、没入感も全然違うので、やっぱり VR は VR で見たいっていうのが正直なところで、やっぱりこのとってもこの白い空間が効果的に使われていて、何かこう、まっさらなキャンバスとか、まだ誰も踏んでない白い雪のような、なんかこう、まだ壊されてないピュアなものみたいなものを感じさせると。で、そこにとってもクリアで、ちょっとこう、クリスタルな水の音とかも加わって、それがこう無の空間の中でこう、共鳴していく感じとかすごくよくできていると思います。で、そこにスピード感が加わって命が生まれて栄えて消えていくみたいなそのライフサイクルを、表していると。で、そこに細胞みたいなモチーフが出てきて、それがまたその命のサイクルっていうメタファーをすごく、作り上げていると思います。で、最後に今度は最後っていうか今度は黒にフェードして、そこからはこう逆にすごく窮屈で小さくなっていく世界観があって、で音も何かこうちょっと驚異的になっていく。なんか自分がちょっとこう水中にいるような気分になりましたので、そのちょっとこう鼓動するような感じのものがすごくそのマイクローブとかウイルスを感じさせました。で、それが今度また、白に今度フェードインして、また、鹿が現れてっていう本当にファンスマークス青い馬、とかそれから音楽は フランスの印象派のサティなんかを非常に想起させるものだったと思います。でその不思議なことにとってもリラックスさせる癒しのものとあと何か驚異的なものが、共存している、世界観がちゃんとできていたと思います。でこれ質問としてはこれは VR でやった場合VR プレイヤーは何か、実際にやることっていうのはあるんですか、その手を使って。
ありがとうございます。
なんかあります？先に答えてもらって。
はい、VR の、そういう中に、一応つけたいと思ったんだけど、多分触ると、なんか視界と近くの距離で触ることができるくらいの、なんか設定をやったんだけれど、ちょっとプログラミングをあまり正直なところやっていないので、そういう途中でキャンセルして、直接 VR の画像だけかなとやっていきましたのです。
So to answer your question, Andreas, he wanted to be able to program it in a way so that the player can actually touch the deer, but he couldn't get that far. So at the moment, it's just a visual experience.
Yeah, thank you. It's beautiful anyways. I think the what we see in the video, the opening with the hands gives that suggestion of kind of physical bodily proximity. So we feel we're actually involved in this. So I can see that as something like an inner dreams like association, how I might in a dream explore my own body or something like that. So yeah, for me that fits very well.
実際に手から始まるオープニングなので、まさに自分のことのように感じられる作品になっている、その夢で見ているかのようなところもあるし、だからその王さんが触れるようにしたかったっていう気持ちはよくわかります。Go ahead, Peter. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. And what is a nice combination is the white space against these textures that, from what I don't know if they really are, but they look rather from old materials. Like it looks like there's dust and flicker as if it's film, and the actual shapes themselves look like they're derived from some sort of material cells. What I mean is I don't know if it's digital or not, but it looks like you mixed older, I say old materials, just pre-digital materials with obviously in VR being a digital medium, which gave it a really beautiful and timeless look. One thing one thing that I know about VR is that when you go into VR, you know it's not going to be, or you know it's not going to be an extremely long experience. So you have a sense of how long it's going to be. When I put a VR on by a student working in an experimental form, I'm guessing it's going to be between 1 and 8 minutes long. And that's actually a really great, you did a good job of helping orient us to the time, doing a story, but in an experimental way. It had a nice flow, understanding like when the story was getting more intense and when I was getting near the end based on that format.
非常にね、その白い空間とそれからいろんなテクスチャーがいい具合に混ざり合っていたと思います。で、一見そのテクスチャーのちょっとしたフリッカーとか、ダスト、ホコリっぽいものみたいなのはなんかまるでデジタルで作ってないもののように見えました。でなのでその、デジタル時代の前のものとデジタルのものをこう見事に融合させているような感じがしました。でそれがこの作品はなんかこうもう時代を超越した時を感じさせない作品になっていたと思います。でVR の作品が提出された時って大体こっち側もその VR なんで、その尺の長さをある程度は想像できるんですよね。だいたい1分から8分ぐらいの間だろうと。で、あなたはその時間の枠組みの中で、エクスペリメンタルなんだけれども、非常にいいフローを作ってて、ここがクライマックスだろうとか、もうすぐ終わりなのかなみたいな、ちゃんと起承転結というか、をこの VR の中でも感じさせてくれたと思います。
Very nice.
Since Peter mentioned the texture of the painting style, I mean, of course, prompted by the name of the project, I was thinking it looked like glass painting and reminded me of the kind of those glass slides that you use under the microscope when you examine microbes and maybe viruses. So I found that was a very fitting association.
そうそうそう、非常にガラス、ペイントグラスみたいなをすごく想起させる作品だったし、同時に顕微鏡の、シャーレじゃないけど、ガラスの上に乗せてみる、ああいうものもとっても感じさせる作品だったので、なんかすごいぴったりだなと思いました。
ありがとうございます。Thank you very much.
実際ガラスに書いてますよね。
そうです。
It was actually done on glass, in on glass.
Yeah, I could tell.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
you very much.
you.
Okay, this time I'm going to pay a little more attention to what I click on. And here, so I'm going to pause it because we're about to get $1 by Akimi. Here we go.
Is that the 360 version? Maybe you should pan around then.
Really? Oh my gosh. Did not know you could do that.
Otherwise, we're missing half of the experience.
I'll read I should be reading the synopsis. The synopsis. Welcome to Wandala, a wondrous and warm mandala world where both death and rebirth are celebrated when the soul leaves the body.
Yeah, so that again was an experience that really works in VR in the 360 video. As we saw, I mean, we start out in something that's like a carousel. So we still have a defined floor and ceiling and so on, and no kind of our way around in the space. So it's some familiar situation, evoking a reminiscence of funfair and pleasure and kind of going loose. And then, yeah, once we start turning, we encounter that sleepy Buddha figure. I interpreted that as a sleepy Buddha. And well, then I think the space as we know it just starts dissolving. And that's where there's the 360 full encompassing space really becomes very compelling. We swirl around left and right, get dissolved up and down, disappear in this kaleidoscopic vision of something like a sugar candy world. And I mean, there are some reminiscences of normal life still after we leave that carousel and get in the spin. We see cityscape, we see some buildings and advertisement, but everything is in the super colorful pull and swirl that sucks us in as the player in whatever way, into the ground, into the sky, sideways, or wherever. And I think in that tumble we lose the sense of what is correct order of things, and just get to let ourselves floating with the music, with the pull of colors, and then the whole experience stops, and we wonder, we're in this dark universe, and like as Peter read in the synopsis, it's about life and death, and we get a new birthday assigned, so to speak, and then all of a sudden we're floating in empty space, suggesting we may have left that world behind, or else we're assisting in the world being recreated around us again, like a cycle. And it makes us a little bit pensive about where this all goes and where we are in that dark universe space that we get reborn into, and what all that carousel and circus, etc., is about. And it leaves us thinking about that. It's not that I have a ready answer at hand to respond to that, but it's yeah, leaves us in a beautiful position. Congratulations.
これもやっぱりさっきと一緒で、やっぱ VR で見ないと良さが完全には伝わらない作品だと思いました。で、最初なんかこう回転木馬みたいなものから始まるわけですけども、その時点ではまだ床があって天井があってっていう、なんかこう、人間にとってはその馴染みのある空間みたいな、雰囲気がちゃんと存在しているんですよね。で、こう楽しくてなんかこう緩く楽しめて、みたいな世界から始まって、でこうちょっと周りを見始めると、そこで初めて、眠い、お釈迦様がいて、でそうから徐々にその自分たちが知っている空間っていうものが消えていって、でこうなんかこう万華鏡のようなスピン回転のかかる世界のすごくカラフルでキャンディーみたいなところからまだちょっとだけそのビルとか看板とか人が見えて日常感もあるけれども、だんだんこうカオス的ななんかこうごちゃ混ぜになっていって、でそこでこうなんか正しい順序とか秩序みたいなものは何だっていうものを考えさせられると。でその浮遊した感じとか音楽とか色味が突然消えて、今度はこう真っ暗な、宇宙に放り出されて、で、新しい誕生日を、与えられて、でまたその、無の空間を浮いていくわけですけども、そこでなんかこう最後はこうちょっと非常にこう 思い巡らせるというか考えさせるようなところで終わる、そのどこへ行くのか、これで生まれ変わったのか、最初のその回転木馬みたいなところは一体何だったのかみたいな、その、一人一人がちょっとこう答えにを思い巡らせるような何かそういう美しいエンディングで終わるっていう作品になっていると思います。
And so when I watch it again, there are 3 parts, and the first one gets us set up for expectation, obviously with the Buddha talking to us. The second part is too much, like it's over, like I don't feel like I'm gonna get a chance to see everything. I'm turning constantly in VR, turning around looking for something I'm gonna miss, and then I start going down a tunnel. And I think, did I go down the right tunnel, or was there another tunnel? I don't know. I wasn't looking because it is behind me. And then what happens in the third one is minimal and comparatively quiet, visually in particular. And we stick with it for quite a while. It seems rather long to me. And it makes me really sit there and go, am I here? Is this infinity? Am I going to is this my existence forever? Is this where this was all going? And I think about this obviously because the Buddha made me think about life and death. And so that contrast is very strong in particular from the second to the third section, the overwhelming joyful assault of color and action and characters to the third section where I'm left with my own thoughts mostly. I thought that was very effective.
そうですね、主にこの作品は3つのパーツに分かれていると思うんですけども、最初は場面設定というか、お釈迦様と話すっていうところでこう、バックグラウンドができて、で、第2部はもう本当にもうガチャガチャでこう、なんていうのかな、全部見切れない、見たいけど見切れないで、なんかトンネル入ってったけど、これでいいのか、別のがあるんじゃないかとか、もう本当に、本当にカオス的なこうすごい世界があって、で、最後の第3部では、もう本当にミニマル、最低限のものの、ビジュアルにも静か、音楽も静かっていうところが割と長い時間があると。で、そこにいることによってすごく無限の時間なのか、ここで私は一生を過ごすのかみたいなことを考えさせられる。それはなぜかというと、最初のそのお釈迦様が生きると死ぬということについて考えさせられたから、最後にまたそこに戻って考えていくっていう、とてもね、自分たち、最後自分の頭の中で、思いを巡らせるっていうところで終わらせるっていうのがこう効果的に作られた世界だと。本当はでも最後もう誕生日入れたりするところが出てくるところがあるんだよね、生まれ変わったり。
そうですね。なんか結構そうですね。なんか今見た映像だと結構いろいろ抜けてるなっていう感じしたんですけど、はい、もっといろいろ入ってはいます。
それは第3部だけじゃなくて全体的に？
そうですね。送った映像が結構前のやつかなみたいな感じだったんですけど。
So yeah, this 360 version was not the final version, unfortunately. And the third part, as you put it, Peter, there's a part where the Buddha gives a new birthday to the player, and so he gets the player gets to be reincarnated. But yeah, it was hard to find that right place with this video, so that's something that she needs to still improve.
Well, I interpreted it as just living forever, existing forever in that limbo.
でも私はその無の空間でなんかこう永遠に止まるみたいな風に受け取りました。
guess that's the pleasure of 360. You just got to turn around until you see your new birthday. Yes.
それが本当に360度で、その、白さというか、新しい生まれ変われるところまでこう、それを見つけるまで探さなきゃいけないっていうことなのかな。
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Let's move to Rio's game U, and I should read the synopsis.
Okay, that's
Kyo. I'm sorry, Kyo. In this puzzle, U is the title. In this puzzle adventure game, the player acts as a father who recently lost his rebellious son. By revisiting memories with his son, the father gradually comes to terms with his boy's death. The designer researches gameplay and storytelling with a focus on player and character perspectives. So I'm going to, Rio's created a really great, Kyo, sorry. It's just not all Americans are smart. Has a really good long walkthrough video capture of the game, and I watched it all. And so I am gonna uncharacteristically, I'm gonna skip around a little and probably talk a little over the video to give us an orientation.
Rua 地瓜，翅膀硬了，啊！我成全你，滚！该死！
It's a big deal that the synopsis told me that there were left tense, but we're not sure. And here we have a really nice navigation with the this book is also our ability to get into the game and then also choose levels.
This is 你觉得对这里一无所知？真的？
So what's interesting is that
是在这儿吗？
we're taking the point of view of the father and learning about his regret.
玩什么游戏啊？
我想要这个，这个可厉害了！我跟你说，
这个时候可真淘气啊！这个可花了你不少钱呀，你还是咬咬牙买了。这声音是。
And my favorite part is that we go into these doors and enter the same room as we go horizontally, but then when we go down, we enter a new room. Probably a different time in the child's life.
他那个时候很能吃， 正是长身体的时候，生日快乐！真是个好时候啊！我最喜欢吃蛋糕了。
别着急，慢点吃。
那个时候，你觉得它什么都有希望，很香的味道。
And so this effect of seeing yourself here is very powerful. It makes me feel lost in my regret of the choices the dad made, what the dad can't have back.
好的。
死哪儿去了？快来哄哄孩子。
Unfortunately, I have to move on.
藏着掖着呢。
I'm gonna go to a new section.
你可千万不能被发现啊！
这小子偷偷藏了什么？这玩
Using
意
a
儿
laser pointer
是猫喜欢的东西吧？
to
还
get
挺
a
带
cat
劲
to
儿。
play with the
投到墙上试试。
laser on the wall or on the floor.
操！房间转了。
This is so game-like. It's such a good repetition that here in the walkthrough there's a consistent
它有菌的，脏得很。
可是妈妈说可以。
where the character
这是为了你
moves
好。
up and then down.
哪里还藏着什么吗？我得找找。操！房间转了。
Room spinning, so he says that consistently, which I really like that repetition
这我不会管他死活，你好好念书，别玩物丧志。
with the cat's action.
操！房间转了。浪费钱，浪费时间。你看你什么时候照顾
But
过
this
他
is a
了？
very effective use also of disorientation.
玩
Black
就
and
知道
white
玩。
space makes me have a little trouble being spatially oriented, which really adds to me feeling uneasy as we're moving through the kid's life. We're getting more and more uneasy.
操！
Okay, so I'm gonna keep going.
习是一种
Here
乐
we
趣
get
吗？
to
让我来告诉你们吧。
scene about
学
studying,
习可以
about
让你
doing
得
well
到
in
知识，
school.
学习可以让你结
And
交
it's
许多朋
fascinating
友，
to
学
think
习
that
可以让你得到许多的认
gained here is a
学习
kid, these are
让你
别再让我发现你在开小差。
总
不然还得
之
罚
his
你。
father who's related the chained because he's so obsessed with
这个时候就要多吃苦，
and
长
his
大了
son
才能少
turn
受
out
罪。
in one to turn out in one particular way.
更加有意义的成绩，
别再让我发现你在开小差，
难道
不然还得罚你。
幸福和快乐吗？学习让我的大脑吸收更多营养，学习让我眼前的事。
You let the chains just have their physics behavior just kind of run off, and it totally works. When the chains are broken down there, there's nothing wrong with that kind of activity where the chain is a little bit alive still.
别再让我发现你在开小差，不然还得罚你。
We move on, we go back, and so this is a interface in the actual book itself, and this is for me one of the effectively upsetting scene where you're succeeding at getting the parents to argue, and it's obviously from a child's point of view. And the child blames himself.
个好孩子，
for
我
his
也不能
parents
像
fighting,
别人家
which
小
is
孩一样，
common-
让你们不吵架。
common
我问你
experience for kids.
你怎么就能想出把他赶出去？
不然呢？
So move on.
孩子啊，
有胆你就别再回来！
你这又是何苦呢？
Peter, can you turn down the volume a little bit so I can hear you just a little better?
I bet it's killer loud.
你还在磨蹭什么呀？快去把孩子追回来！
So then we get to this part where the dad's drunk and going towards the boy. And the dad's now, in particular, being hard on himself. And I think, I mean, there's open for interpretation, but I'm yearning for forgiveness. And I don't know if I'm going to get it. I believe the boy pushed him away. What I saw. And so, I think the father's lost his ability to feel forgiveness or reprieve. But then we go into this last very abstracted scene where I think it's a sort of a scene of resolution and forgiveness. And for me, it's about a theme of a parent being too hard on their kid and understanding that as being a kind of love. So I'm not giving the ending due, skipping through it, but I think it's time to talk about it a little again. I think it's time to stop and discuss it a little more. My advice is to make a 5-minute walkthrough video. So your trailer's good, and this is amazing, and also have one that's in between, a 5-minute version of this. So kind of what I was trying to estimate here.
もう本当にそのお父さんの視点でお父さんの後悔を描くっていう、本当に、ものすごい大作だし、とてもよくできていると思います。その第一ステージのところでは一番いいなと思ったのは横に行くドアだと同じところに戻ってきちゃうけど、下に行くと違う部屋に行けてその子供の一生をこうたどれるようになっていると。でそのお父さんのもう、後悔の念でこう我を見失っている感じっていうのがすごくよく出ていると思います。で猫をあやすレーザーポインターを、使ったのも非常にもうまさにゲームという感じで、繰り返しの使い方もとってもいいし、何度も失敗するっていう感じもとってもそのゲームとして効果的だと思います。で、この白黒の使い方も自分がどこにいるのかっていうのが時々分からなくなる。それがまたちょっとこうドキドキする感じとか緊張感、なんかこうちょっと良くないことが起きるんじゃないかみたいな予感を非常によく盛り上げてくれると思うし、それがどんどんこう加速されていく。でお父さんがこう鎖でつながれているっていう使い方もすごくよくて、実はお父さん自身がつながれてしまっているっていうのがとてもよく表されていると思います。で、ちぎれた鎖が落ちてもなんかまだ生きてるかのようにうにょうにょしてるみたいなのもすごくいいと私は思いました。で、また日記そのものが出てくるところもあるんですけども、今度子供の視点になって子供がよく経験する親の喧嘩っていうのを子供が感じるようなとっても嫌な思いっていうのを表すのにとてもいいゲームプレイになってるし、でお父さんが酔っ払って、そこは多分人によって解釈が違うんだと思うんだけども、私は許しを、 求めているお父さんっていう風のをすごく感じました。でも許してもらえるかわからない。で、一回しかも突き返されてしまう。で、お父さん自身がその許されたっていう感じをこう、自分自身にそう感じられなくなってしまっている。で、最後のステージで、何かここで最終的な解決というかがあるんだろうと思うし、お父さん自身が愛があるからこそ子供に厳しくしてしまったっていうことをこう気づく時が来るんだろうなと思います。ただ、ネタバレになるので最後の最後まではプレイしない、ここではお見せしないでおきますけども、ぜひこれは5分間ぐらいのウォークスルーを、きっちり、作ることをお勧めします。
Yeah. So it's a dramatic beginning in this snowy, stormy winter night. And I mean, even without the synopsis, we understand one person is trying to most likely save the son and bring him to the hospital. We don't know exactly what happened, but the urgency is clear. And in this very reduced, but also very cinematic way, the opening gives us the backstory that informs our entire experience of the piece. And then we go through the diary, which first I thought, well, this is, okay, it's a good way. We have a diary that gives us sections and gives us a table of contents, so to speak, to navigate. But then going through the experience, I realized the diary is actually a very central, important point. So it's the diary that's left by the son who passed away, and the father, through the very personal item of the son, discovers or rediscovers and re-encounters his own memories of the son. And in the very beginning, we go through these it's like a memory museum of the father's reminiscences of his son. And I like the stark black and white contrast, which is beautiful, but it also renders everything a little bit abstract. And we need to work to decipher what we see. And then there are these many doors, kind of in a labyrinthine way that lead us around, kind of from association to association as we go through those spaces. And it begins with the fond memories that the father has, but then as we progress through the diary, we encounter the memories of the child, actually, that the father has to confront. That's how I interpreted that, and that's why I felt that the diary is really central. And the father cannot uphold the beautified reminiscence of the child, and has to grapple with the difficulties that the father and son had experienced. And I find all these scenes play out increasingly in surreal ways, and in a very enigmatic world that oscillates a little bit between, say, the orderly museum display, where we can, behind a barrier, nicely protect and shelter the good memories. And it gets knocked off. Like we come into this room where the bookshelf is kind of knocked over, the AC is hanging in an angle off the wall, and things get out of whack and out of order, like in a messy, ruined apartment. Until we get into a completely surreal world where we get onto that pathway where the father is drunk, fish were underwater, and so on. So it's really a very visceral grappling with memory and a process of coming to terms with the father-son relationship that the father really has to go through alone. And in the early attempt, I felt it's the museum trying to beautify the memory of the son and have it an intact family, but it just doesn't uphold. The diary doesn't lend itself to be able to do this. And yeah, I really like the two-tone high contrast black and white, and the difficulties it introduces in deciphering what's going on, which is, I think, a really good metaphor for how we may work through our psychological states of memory and repression. And yeah, in some sense, the level of the labyrinthine doors, the level of confusion and endless walking and getting lost and revisiting places that we've been to is a beautiful mechanic that renders the state of grief and recollection and grappling with the father-son relationship. So I found it a very impactful, intense piece that, yeah, I think in a almost epic way tells this story of father and the son. And it's very impactful, very beautiful, and very well done. It's very expansive. So I agree with Peter that the trailer leaves me rather confused. And the whole gameplay half-an-hour video is maybe too long to go through it. So something in between where I get a little bit of the impact of the story, and the kind of the emotional qualities of it, because I could see from the trailer it's it's an adventure story. It's about grappling with zombies rather than my psychological states that I have in relationship to my son as being the father in this, which is very, very subtle, very personal, and very nicely told as a story. So yeah, beautiful. Congratulations, Kyo.
Thank you.
どっから書き始めたか忘れちゃったけど、そう非常にそのドラマチックなところから始まってその嵐があって、でも何か息子を助けたいんだなっていうその臨場感と緊張感、非常にそのシネマチックな出だしからあって、もうその時点でこのゲーム全体のその経験がこういうものであるだろうというこう予感させる、決定づけるようなものがちゃんと作れています。で、この日記っていうのが実はそのプレイの仕方だったり、その場面転換のなんていうのかな、そのガイドとしてだけではなく、実は非常に中心的で重要なものなんだっていうのがこう分かっていくわけですね。で、これによってその息子の記憶だけじゃなくて、その辛い記憶、父の記憶っていうのもこう、紐解いていくという何かこう記憶の博物館みたいな感じで、しかもその白黒のコントラストとてもうまく効いてるんだけども、非常にこう抽象性もこの作品に達していて、なんていうかな、プレイヤーはただ遊ぶっていうよりは能動的に何かこう自分自身で解決していかなきゃいけないみたいなふうに出来上がっています。特にこの迷宮っぽい作りにもなっていますので、でそのなんていうの、昔の良きあったかい思い出みたいなものからだんだんその父に対する、その反抗的な思い出みたいなのも見えてきて、そのいいとこじゃなくてだけじゃなくて、その嫌な部分とこうお父さん向き合っていかなければいけない。その、何かこう秩序の取れたいい記憶と、倒れた本棚とか落ちかけたエアコンみたいなその世界をこう巡りながら、最終的にこのもう本当に水中だったりとかはしごみたいなのしかないこうシュールな世界に行くっていう作りになってて、もう本当にこう日韓的にとってもこう、インパクトのある、つかまれる作品だと思いました。で、そのお父さんと息子っていう非常にこうパーソナルであり難しい関係性に向き合っている、そしてお父さんがこれはゲームなんだけれどもお父さん自身の孤独な戦いっていうのをとってもよく表していると思うし、いろんなメタファーもとてもよく使われていると思います。なので私もちょっとピーター先生と一緒でトレーラーだけを見るとちょっと混乱してしまった。 で、プレイビデオは30分だとちょっと長すぎるので、この作品のその感情的なものとか、インパクトをきちんと盛り込んだ、もうちょっと短いプレイビデオがあるといいんじゃないかなと思いました。
Yeah, I found it a very effective project that made me put me through pain in order to reconcile what this kid went through and then try to find some forgiveness for the dad who we were playing. So that's a really interesting combination there.
本当に私自身もすごく痛みを感じなければできないゲームだったと。その息子の立場で考えたときに非常に実際にとても辛いものだったし、それを父親というプレイヤーは父親となって許しをもらえるかどうかっていうのを、プレイを通して自分の父親にならなきゃいけないというのもとても的だったと思います。
Very good. Nice work. This reminds me, I want to tell everyone that IndieCade is accepting submissions. And these projects are all worth applying for sure. It costs a little money, but I think you should do it. I think everyone should look into it and apply soon.
ここで皆さんにぜひお願いしたいんですけども、インディーケイドっていうインディーゲームのフェスティバルが今作品を募集しているので、今回見せてもらった作品はどれもぜひ応募してほしいものですし、ちょっとお金はかかっちゃうけれども、前向きに検討してくださいということです。
All right. We're going to look at Can I See You Now? It's a two-player game. And it's an online PC game involving two players who wander around in Google Street View trying to find each other. 2020 forced us to reevaluate the absoluteness of physical distance. How can we meet people now?
Five, four, three, two, one. Disconnected.
Ah, もしもし。つながった。ういっす。久しぶり。
what I the just a quick thing that's struck me is how well the characters are integrated into Google Maps. So we've all Google Street View. We've all seen Google Street View, and you had shadows operating with between the character and the world, and that was a very nice touch. A lot of things make me curious about a game like this. I don't know if I'm seeing the woman character is recognizable for other people who like I don't know if she's from some other property or you made her. She looks recognizable as a character I might see on the internet. And what I'm most interested in is if what the experience is like for people if they do or don't know the map. So I think I was seeing Japan in this map, and I think it would be fascinating to play it both, you know, in Los Angeles, and I would perhaps know the map, but again, play it maybe almost the same game, but in a different map. Or instead, it makes this project just keeps making me think of ideas like, what if one player sees themselves as being in Tokyo and one person sees themselves as being in Los Angeles, but they still are coming together because they both see their own version of the map, their own location themselves, but they're coming together. It's does a good job of being earnest, meaning it's really trying to explore this sadness that we might feel not being able to go outside. And I know y'all can go outside now, but we still can't. Of trying to connect to someone else, and there's a certain kind of irony to doing this in a video game, and it's using Google Street View, which now we all really recognize as looking sort of real, and then mixing it with these digital characters, despite the fact that digital characters are really, really well woven into the look. It looks very good, especially when it starts. I'll pull the video up again. We see this as a contrast between these digital characters and this sort of wide angle but realistic looking version of Japan through Google Street View. So the music orients me to think that it's both having fun, but it's also both interested in acknowledging a lot of us are yearning for something better and a little bit sorrowful for the state of things.
.そうですね。まず一番に驚いたのが、この作品、Google ストリートビューにものすごくうまくそのキャラクターが統合されてるっていうところにまず驚きました。で、ちょっと興味持ったのは、例えばこの女性のキャラクターとかは実際作ったのか、そもそもあるプロパティなのかみたいなことを考えさせられました。で、一番知りたくなったのは、この場所のことやこの地図、この辺の地図のことを知らない人はどう思うのかなっていうことですかね。で、というようにこう見れば見るほどいろんなことを考えさせられる、ものでした。で、今のこの世の中の状態を一生懸命自分なりにこう考えてみようっていうのがすごく感じられたし、この外に出られない、日本は出られるのかもしれないけど、ロシアはまだまだみんなロックダウンで出られないっていうこの状態の悲しさを、林さんなりに考察しているっていうのはよく分かったし、ただこれをビデオゲームにしてしまう、オンラインの地図でデジタルのキャラクターを使って っていうの、そのアイロニーも面白いと思いました。で、この音楽からは、なんていうか、その楽しさも感じさせられる一方で、その何かもっといいものを求めているんだなっていう感じが伝わるような音楽だと思います。
I want to acknowledge that obviously some of these scenes are not in Japan. I just realized that was my mistake.
もちろん日本だけじゃない地図も場面もあるんですねっていう。All the characters are free. That's he says.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I appreciate the fact that we can actually play that wherever we want in the world. I wasn't able to try out what happens when my partner gives a different longitude, latitude than me, but I'm assuming that is the normal case that will happen. So the idea that we explore a space that we're familiar with, where we know all the streets, etc., is quite nice. And allows us to do that anywhere in the world and in different places. To me, I have to somehow see that as an inversion of Blast Theory's game, Can You See Me Now? Reformulating the idea of running through the city and chasing or finding somebody now under the paradigm of the pandemic lockdown. So when Blast Theory's game back, when was that, in 2003 in Shibuya, right, was I think one of the first really publicized adventure into GPS-based big games that brought the experience of playing in a game space in the real world to create something like a hybrid between real and virtual world. Now, this celebrated and new idea gets kind of reverted back into virtual space, and we encounter real world solely as it is modeled by Google Street View. And aesthetically, it still maintains that hybridity between real and virtual. But yeah, at another level of remove. So instead of the real world, we're going through Google Street View, and instead of engaging with real people that are running through the city, we deal with game characters. And it's kind of also their references. I mean, I definitely recognize Ethan, like that prefab character that just chips with Unity and as a standard. So I quite appreciate this idea of the notion of real world perceived through a level of remove, and characters as well at another level of remove. And it's an interesting play on the notion of reality and the impact of being shut out of reality in a world that functions due to the pandemic just purely through online remote platforms. And with that, it's the question how we structure and consider our relationship to reality in a world which I think even pre-pandemic, a lot of our social interactions were through avatars or virtual presences, and also our navigation was a lot through navigation systems and Google Maps and turn-by-turn navigation instructions. So in some sense, it's not just asking the questions about what does it mean to be locked down. It's also, in general, our relationship to reality and how we navigate, how we negotiate, and how we relate to each other in those kind of hybridly perceived real worlds. Yeah, very interesting, very provocative.
Would you be surprised if I said that in like 2 sentences? ちょっと先に言っとかなきゃいけないのは、まだお二人ともパートナーと一緒にこれを遊ぶっていうことができていないんですね。なので、ちょっと解釈が違ってるかもしれないんだけども、このような、 まあ、どこでも行けるっていうものを作ったっていうのは非常に面白いと思います。で、自分がよく知る場所をこのゲームとして詳しく見れるっていうのも面白いと思います。2003年の Can I see you now じゃなくて Can you see me now の、インバージョン、ひっくり返したものっていうのはとてもじゃないかなというふうに感じました。で、それに今度このロックダウンのパラダイム付きという形ですね。で、2003年のそのゲームもそうですけども、GPS ベースのこういうビッグゲームは、現実とバーチャルのこのハイブリッドみたいなものにフォーカスを当てているものですよね。で、現実が Google ストリートビューになっているということ、それから人じゃなくてゲームのプレイヤーが、遊ぶというプレイヤーになるということ、ユニティについてくるイーサンっていうキャラクターなんかも出てきましたし、なんていうかな、リアリティとはみたいなこととか、それから、リアリティから出されてしまった時のリアリティとはみたいなものも考えさせられたし、現実から、ワンステップ離れたところからの現実の捉え方みたいなものを、よく考えさせられたし、それからでも実はこのロックダウンとか、コロナの前から、人間と現実との関係性っていうのはちょっとだいぶ変わってきてたと思うんですよね。いろんな社会的なつながりっていうのはアバターや、ナビだったりを使って、現実からは一歩離れた、関わりっていうのが今普通にされてきていますので、人と何かをナビゲートするとか、人との交渉とはっていうようなことをとても考えさせられて、とてもなんていうのかな、深い作品じゃないかなと思います。
Very good. So I saved Mu Yang's for last, if I'm not mistaken, to celebrate everyone's hard work. It's topical. And Andreas, I'm going to play the trailer, but if you want, you can queue up the game if you said you had it.
I think, yeah, I have it, but I think let's keep it same for all of those, right? Okay. Just let's see the video.
Okay. So it's a wonderful new day. The frog wakes up from his sleep. It's a beautiful new day. Let's work hard and keep the bees in line. Give me one sec. So I might call this a dark comedy, that it is light and funny and beautiful and charming at the same time that it seems like the creator is using irony to show that we can all overwork, and that either we do it to ourselves or the system does it to us, like our job does it to us, or your school does it to you. What in terms of gameplay, what seems like what's is interesting is there is a Where's Waldo phenomenon, because the characters that aren't working versus are working, at least when I watched this, aren't very easy to spot, and so there's a kind of a tension and a kind of work that I need to employ to find that non-working person, that lazy person, so I can eat them. But it all comes into a twist at the end, where I realize it was a bad dream I was having that I would do that to others. And if I'm reading it right, that I'm the one, the frog that woke up from the nightmare was the player. And then there's these quick images of like getting, shaving kit for a present, and I guess to get ready in the morning. And so obviously what happens is, in order to play this, I have to be complicit with this deal many of us have made with society to overwork, or to at least look busy. I have to be the one who actually punishes the people for being, quote, lazy. And yet, when I wake up from my dream, I don't quite know if my character has reconciled the dilemma, or it seems like the character is going all in, actually.
非常にその時事的な今話題というか、ナウな作品ではないかと思います。とてもダークコメディの要素もあって、一方でなんかこう軽くて面白くて可愛くてっていう側面もある中で、自分に対してこう非常に多くを求めすぎてしまう今の世の中だったり、もしくは学校とか職場というものからとっても、ハードワークを要求されてしまうっていうその世の中をこう見せているアイロニー的な作品でもあると思います。で、そのゲームプレイ自体はウォーリーを探せみたいな側面もあって、あんまりちゃんと働いていない蜂っていうのがそう簡単に見つけられないんですね。ちょっと自分自身それを探しに行かなきゃいけない。そこに何かこう、テンションだったり、なんかこう能動性みたいなものを求められると。で、その最後のその悪夢っていうのがちょっと私そこでちゃんと理解できてるかわからないんだけども、その管理者だった方がそのひげ剃りとかいろんなものをもらって、それでこう毛を落としているっていう、それが悪夢なんだけれども、もしかして現実なのかもしれない、それが分からなくて、でしかもそのプレイヤー自身がそのカエルだったってことが なので、その自分自身が一生懸命働いたり、もしくは一生懸命働いているふりをする、そして、怠けているものに対する罰を加えるっていうことについて、全部悪夢で、それが自分がその管理者だったのか、もしくは管理者の夢を見ているのかっていう、その辺がちょっと、はっきりとはまだ分からなかったです。
All right, yeah. So I have a totally different perspective on this. Yeah, the frog wakes up from a nightmare where he dreams of being a lazy bee. Luckily, it's just a nightmare. And he wakes up in a room that's filled with these encouraging notes about success, like nothing is impossible and hard work is the key to success and so on, which is where the real nightmare starts, I would say. And then the frog goes to work to catch the lazy bees who are not working as hard as they should. And in the complete inversion of that saying of the busy bees, right? He's walking between the cubicles and spots those who are not doing their job, and catches them and eats them. And after doing that, it's very subtle. I think after the second bee or so, the frog turns indeed into a bee. So his nightmare actually comes true. But frog doesn't realize it because frog doesn't have a mirror, I guess. And as a player, we're so focused on trying to spot the lazy bees that we actually, first time around, I didn't notice that the frog transforms into a bee. So I noticed it at some point, and then I had to play it again to spot when exactly it happens. But we're so focused on catching those bees and navigating around that it's hard to notice the moment. So then after some, let's say, moderate success, the frog gets awarded Manager of the Month and gets those simple, cheap goods as awards, like a lighter, a toothbrush, or a shaver. And all of these get really violently employed to remake the frog, to lose its bee exterior and turn back into a frog and kind of a bee prosecutor. And yeah, I found what comes across first as a very simple, straightforward catching game turns out really with a twist, where it challenges our perspective of what is work ethic, what it means to be a busy bee or a lazy frog, and how we value success in our life, what we consider success. And whether we want to accept those cheap lighters, etc., as rewards for transforming ourselves to conform to the standards of some corporations, or by those global evil consulting companies like McKinsey or so that make us think what success is and try to infiltrate and basically believe in propaganda, right? So it's, I found it leaves us with a lot of pretty serious questions to think about, yeah, all those aspects, how we are in life, how we are functioning, how we're performing from this very kind of innocent and friendly looking game. So yeah, great job, nice twist.
ごめんね。私は全く違う受け取り方をしましたので、まず、カエルが、悪夢から目覚める。で、自分が怠け者の蜂になってしまったんじゃないかっていう悪夢から目覚める。で、目覚めた部屋は、あちこちに、努力が一番みたいなことが書いてある部屋で、でも本当の悪夢っていうのは実はここから始まるんじゃないかなと思いました。で、この蜂は、カエルはここから仕事に行って、怠け者の蜂を食べると。で、自分が、そしたら蜂になっていくと。そしてその悪夢がまさに現実になっていく。でも、アンドレアス先生、自分自身もそうだけど、蜂もおそらく自分が徐々に蜂になっていくっていうことに気づかないんですね。っていうのは、一生懸命その怠け者の蜂を見つけることに一生懸命になってるから、蜂自身、カエル自身も、プレイヤー自身もなかなか気づかないと。で、頑張っていくと、今度優秀上茶賞をもらえるんだけども、その商品が非常にチープなライターだったり、カミソリだったりして、結局カエル自身がその蜂の見てくれになっていって、で、自分自身がその蜂の死刑執行人みたいなものだっていうことに気 気づいているのか気づいていないのかみたいな、だからこの一見とってもシンプルなゲームなんだけども、とってもひねりが効いていて、働くということとか、働き蜂とか怠け者のカエルとかって、そういうことを本当に考えさせられるものだし、本当に成功とは何なのか、こんな安っぽい商品をもらうことが本当に成功なのか、その体制に、なんかこう自分を委ねている我々はこのままでいいのか、実はそれはただのプロパガンダではないのかみたいな、とっても実は真面目な深刻な、疑問を今投げかけている作品なんじゃないかと思いました。
Well, these are very strong projects. I mean, I was really blown away by all 6 of them. Whatever y'all are doing is working, both with the school and the faculty and the students. It was quite a treat to see these.
Thank you very much. もう非常にそれぞれ全部の6作品が非常に強くて主張している作品になっていて、なんか、皆さんがやってること、それから学校でやっていること、何か分かんないけど、とてもうまくいっていると言っていいと思います。
Yeah, I agree with Peter. Really nice work. I really enjoyed going through those, and yeah, you can be proud. It's really good. And I agree also, it's worth submitting them to festivals and kind of getting your work a little bit out into the world. I definitely would encourage that. It's beautiful work. And I think what I really appreciate is that all of those pieces engage on a quite deep level. So it's not just about having a nice experience that's entertaining and that's pretty to look at, but all of them really direct our attention to something that is of emotional complexity, that is kind of a more like a deeper question, and they all make us reconsider. So it's yeah, great achievement to do that in those projects in a very pleasurable and effective way. Congratulations.
ピザ先生と同じで非常に皆さんいい仕事したと思います。ぜひ誇りを持ってください。そしてこういう作品はぜひその世界に見てもらうためにいろんなフェスティバルにも、出してほしいと思います。で、皆さんの作品のすごいところはただ単に楽しいとか、綺麗とか可愛いとかっていうだけじゃなくて、何かこうもう一歩深いところで、プレイヤーを引き込む、考えさせる要素があるということですね。なんか感情のなんか複雑性みたいなこととか、ちょっともう一歩深いところでの質問や、思考といったものをこう促す、作用のあるものばかりなので、これは非常に、素晴らしい功績だと思います。
And then let me add another thing. Congratulations and thank you, Asako, for keeping so well track of all of those things that we're saying. It's pretty amazing.
Well, like I always say, you never know what I'm saying. So
no, I don't, but I trust you.
Thank you. Oh, right. I think, okay, Takashi suddenly disappeared.
Okay.
Okay, well, we'll speak again soon. And
yep, we'll see you in 1 week exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll say again, y'all did great job. Like, this is a serious game school you're in. It's the real thing, international success.
皆さん素晴らしい国際的な成功を収めたと思ってくださいということです。はい。Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Okay, looking forward. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you.